Madam Chair, the time is now 8:18. Larry Bashalti, absent. Gordon Hodges, on her way, absent for the time being. Luma Fonsanto, absent. Arturo Watkington, present. Harry Daniels, absent. Alicia Wells, present. Lydia Hendricks,
Present.
Liliana Bellardi O'Neill, Roland Molina, absent. Delbert M. Bart Ryan, absent. Glenn Webster,
Here.
present. Lisa Harris Moorhead,
Here.
present. Rupert Ross,
Here.
present. Raymond Williams, present. Madam Chair, we have 3 members from St. Thomas present, 5 from St. Croix, total of 8. I think we have 4.
Please give us an update on Cashews.
I would ask Mr. Williams at least to read the first motion that was made, so that he recorded that motion.
Okay, the first motion that was made at the Catholic Center on Thursday was to order the agenda making items E1 and 2, which was the district chair report, moving those 2 items and to the bottom of the under E, and making item number 3 number 1, and so ordered consecutively in the lineup. So that was the only motion that I recorded well in Your Honor.
Thank you. Following up on that, the items number 1 and 2 was subsequently hand disposed of by way of a report from myself and Vice Chair Liliana Bellardi O'Neill. The supervisor's report was given. We have adopted a 2014 calendar, which with certain conditions that the calendar be reviewed by the district chairs and the chairperson of the joint board and executed by them and distributed to the committee thereafter. In that regard, the committee that was tasked with reviewing the calendar met, and the amendment by Mr. Ross that those 3 signatures be placed on the document to so indicate. We want to report that there's 1 item of concern on the calendar, if we want to call it a concern, wherein our casting of lots in the 2014 calendar year falls 2 days, 3 days before the withdrawal of candidates. That situation has occurred before, and if that occurs and somebody's withdrawn, the names of the persons who may withdraw would be removed from the nomination, the candidates for nominations to the public and or party offices, and the other people's names would move up in numerical numbers as has been customary if that uncertainty occurs. The other motion that was passed was a motion to direct my member Rick Williams to direct the supervisor to contract for public relations services, and the other motion that was passed was to authorize Ms. Fox to sign on the election system bank accounts and to provide a resolution therefore. Those are the items that we acted upon at our last meeting. So remaining is the update and revision of our bylaws, the establishment of the Data Advisory Committee, and the discussion of Title 18 reform measures. And that's where we are. And in addition to Item F, which is executive session, we have here DEC 200 policy and procedure discussion and Act 5281 and I assume Act 7334 electronic voting machine.
Okay.
Those are the substantive items that are left on the agenda, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Williams.
I just wanted to add to that report that at the meeting on Thursday, we also discussed the acceptance of the tabulator machines. It's the role of the supervisor, literally, but the board had its conversations and agreed to work with the supervisor towards the acceptance of the new voting systems. So I just wanted to add that to the record.
And in that regard, I would like to just add, Madam Chair, two other items that of lost motions. There was a motion made by Wilma Monsanto to... No, we never got the written document that she read into the record. A motion by Wilma Monsanto to open discussion on the sanctioning of the joint board chair, district chair, joint board chair, Wells, District Chair Watlington, and our Administrative Assistant Claudia Georges, and Darren Benjamin, and a lost motion by Mr. Webster to have all employees who are supposed to punch clocks do so, and those two were the lost motions.
Under bylaws, what was the update on the committee?
I don't think there was any update given. That's where we are on the agenda. But I would like to move if you don't mind. I'd like to move that we order the agenda and take up the item number 8, the establishment of the state plan advisory committee. I would move. So move to second.
All in objection? What's your objection? Let's state your
Can I
objection.
explain my objection?
She asked for it.
My objection is that
I don't understand the question. The persons who have submitted resumes to
Object, Madam Chair, object. Because she's objecting to the movement to discuss that item, and she's asking that you discuss the item. I move that. Either we're going to discuss it. Either we're going to discuss it. That's not a proper objection. She's objecting to the movement to discuss the issue.
Just a minute, excuse me. You're objecting to what, Member Milano?
to remove this from the agenda because I need an explanation why we're removing it.
No, it wasn't removed.
What is the movement on the agenda?
He doesn't want to remove it, reorder it, not remove it.
He didn't say reorder.
Yes, it is.
So where are we putting it?
We're just going to discuss it now before number 7.
Okay, I put my objection then.
Okay. The names that were, persons were asked by advertisement to supply their resumes. Those were sent to Mrs. Fox. There's a listing.
The motion is passed.
Yours, yes, there's no objection.
Passed.
Because, yes,
I withdrew my
because,
But you have to say
Member
it's
Milano withdrew her objection.
Yeah, but remember our class yesterday, you have to say what's considered no objection.
The motion is now to, discuss number 7 on our agenda, establishment of the State Plan Advisory Committee. The objection by Member Liliana Milano has been removed.
All right, Madam
Well,
Chair.
All right, the state plan.
So far, I know, like, it's, Member Georges and myself.
Well,
I didn't understand what you said.
That's what I know is on it so far. We haven't.
We're talking about the public.
No. The state plan is for persons from the community to discuss, and other members, to discuss where to see the election system going forward from here. It has nothing to do with the board.
yes, no.
And, wait a minute, and advertisement was sent out asking for persons to send resumes to Mrs. Fox. Those persons did that, and she gave us a list of 15 persons, I think. who have been, named to that state plan. The chair, there's gonna be a chair of that, I know what you're saying now. The chair of that state plan committee is going to be board member Claudia George, and you're the vice chair. Thank you very much, yes.
Madam Chair, with all due respect, I think we need to have some clarification on that. The state plan calls for each district chair and members from each district to be on the state plan committee, and you appointed Mr. Webster and Ms. Georges as the two other members, along with the two chairs of the two districts.
And the persons
who are here. The persons whose names were submitted and who have been recommended by Supervisor Fox in St. Thomas is Attorney Galen Vogel, Maurice Donovan Jr., Dr. Gwen Marie Molina, Abdul Liebert, David Turnbull, Etlin Farrell, Silva Gibbs, Keisha Ram Tahal, Arlington Terrell Jr., St. Croix, Janista Ritter, Claude Sommer, Marco Gerard, Phyllis Nielsen, Krista Sulu Herman, Beverly Joseph, Juliet Liebert, and Gregory Christian. So those are the people who would comprise the state plan committee. I believe ultimately the chairman of the two districts would in fact be the chair of their various districts and would report back to the chair of the joint board, and the joint board will take whatever action that the state plan committee takes to adopt the state plan and send it out to have for their review and approval.
Mr. Member Webster, did you have a chance to meet with Member Georges and over this weekend since this action?
We met, we're working on it.
You're working on it? Okay. So hopefully by our next meeting we'll have a report.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I don't think that there was any opportunity, or if there is no authority for them to have met to discuss this at this time, because we have not formally adopted the state plan committee. And I think the reason I asked that be moved up is so that we can vote now and in fact establish these individuals and the chairs and the two members from each district as that state plan advisory committee, and then we can move forward in terms of that. Well, I don't even want to make a motion because we are lacking a quorum right now. So I would ask.
A quorum call, you can do that.
Yes. So as the secretary, I put him on the appropriate post for quorum call.
You don't have, if you don't make one, you can keep working, we haven't made that.
Just can't make one decision.
Yeah, well, I'm ready to move the question. I'm ready to move the question unless we have the discussion, further discussion.
I move that the state plan advisory committee be established as recommended by the supervisor and that the decision made by the members.
Is there a second?
Second.
We don't have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Oh, nobody, y'all.
But I am sorry, I'm going to be part of something that is
Wait a
legal.
minute,
We need walking out and I'm bringing another quorum.
We met
You don't have a
yesterday.
quorum to make any decision, guys.
Listen to me, please.
You need 8 people here, Madam Chairman.
Recess to for good.
Was nobody here yesterday?
Yeah.
And then see the notes, the persons who are
I am
making the
sorry,
vote, that's not here.
we have 8 people here.
The persons who are making the
I'm just trying to point out.
Was a quorum call, Madam
The
Chair?
persons who are making the vote is not here.
Okay, we recess.
Did nobody hear that disguise that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're not
In
in
recess,
Exactly.
we're in quorum.
That doesn't mean I can't talk, I'm not
Exactly.
trying to make a motion. or
Ms.
make any
Ross
action.
just made a motion and she called for a second. So if anybody gave her a second, we're gonna have a vote without a.
No, we're gonna have a
I'm not
discussion.
voting I am trying to discuss what we learned yesterday in parliamentary procedure.
Persons weren't here or maybe weren't. Member Ross, may we proceed?
I know, I wanted to address,
Concerned, I'm trying to.
No.
I wanted to address my open house. And may I just say, I made a motion, it was seconded. If any member of the board felt that needed to delay, I hope all I have to do is ask for protocol.
He was here, he said that, the ones who made the proposed were not here when we had the parliamentary procedure practice yesterday.
All they had to do is
That's
ask for
what
protocol.
But had there been an allowance of people to explain what the parliamentary procedure was instead of allowing them to be continuing this meeting?
Oh, it's good we had the training. It's good we had the training. Thank you, Ray. We're back to the rest, we have a quorum. The motion has been made to accept. No, we'll ask them to restate the motion, please, Member Ross.
The motion is that the board authorize the establishment of the state and advisory committee as with the members recommended by the supervisor elections and with the membership of the board, board members recommended by the chiefs, the director.
That's been moved and second. That the board authorized the state plan as proposed with the members that we stated and the
Point of
chair.
order, Madam
May
Madam Chief, point of order. It's state plan advisory committee. That's
State plan advisory committee.
the motion before the body is to establish the state plan advisory committee as authorized by the board. Roll call. Thank you. Lawrence Shelby, absent. Florida Jarvis, absent. Wilma Monsanto, absent. Vivian Hendricks,
Yes, yes.
Harry Daniels, absent. Michelle Wells,
Yes.
Arturo Washington, yes. William Farrell, Glenn Webster,
Yes.
Isa Harris Moorhead,
Yes.
Roland Molina, absent. Delbert Ryan, absent. Rupert Ross, Jr.,
Yes.
Raymond Williams,
Yes.
Madam Chair, 8 yeas, 6 absent.
Now, let's go back to the bylaws.
Madam Chair.
Member Williams.
Thank you. Under the bylaws, I reviewed the bylaws and, one thing, well, I wish Ms. Fox was here because this pretty much deal with her. I noticed that the election system has crafted a new emblem. I don't know if you all noticed it.
And a new one, I'm sorry.
Emblem, see whatever you want to call it. And I don't know that, I had a conversation with her, but I was thinking that, I don't know if the board had seen it, and anybody had discussed its acceptance, although it's pretty much in her authority, but it has to be approved by the board before it can be officially used. So I don't know if any of you signed on any of the documentation, but that's something that the board needs to authorize as well. So
I saw it and I asked about it, and it was all over appropriate, and I asked if we had discussed it.
there's under Article 3 of our bylaws, the bylaws states that the government seal of the board shall be designed and prepared by direction of the supervisor and approved by the board.
There's no,
So
so,
clearly, we need to, have a conversation on that.
All the members see the new that's being used, some of our letterhead, it's not on the old bylaws.
No.
Some of the things that we received, email, whatever.
Can
Madam
someone
Chair.
explain it?
I understand.
One of the deputies can explain.
What is it?
Madam Chair.
See.
Madam Chair.
Oh, looking at it.
Excuse me.
Oh, that one, I thought you were talking about this. What is this?
This is the full one.
That's
This is
the
the
list.
Okay, and I see it, but I'm still asking, what is it, because it's not really legible on here. I mean, I see three little black.
There's a Carambola.
I see the conch shell, but I don't know what those people are, and who, is that their angel or something? I mean, there's some yellow thing.
We never need angels in
No, but
here.
really, I'm not trying to be funny, but I can't make out what this is. That's why I got it.
History on the left is that,
If you look at, one of the points that I thought was one of emulating.
I don't understand what you're saying.
The right is the fourth and what is the what? On the right, that's the fourth.
Excuse me.
I know it's not what
Excuse
you're
me,
saying.
they are, report can't hear, understand what anybody
It's
says.
garbled what you said.
Sure. If you look at, looking at what you can make out, on the left is image, and that's, looking at the circle, it's so hard to explain what you
The image of what?
So
Maybe you need to
one-
stand, excuse me, I can't understand you.
After image, you're not here.
Okay, so let's start. Alright, so look at the image, look into the left of the logo, you'll see in the center is a conch shell. And to the left is an image of a man blowing a conch shell. To the right is for Christian. On the bottom is an image, basically of the flag. Persons as if they're walking into a building. And then it's basically on the top, electric system, Virgin Islands, around the edges, informs on the top, inform Virgin Islands voter, and the bottom, clear, accessible, and transparent. And the council itself is on word, image of a ballot, the word,
Member Watley?
Madam Chair, I think that we need to adapt, I've adopted my position that every 2 years, the joint boards and all the district boards need to establish bylaws or policies for which we will operate during the 2 years that we are in office. At least 2 of the 4 years that each member is in office. As the other elected organizations, specifically the legislature, the Virgin Islands, and the Board of Education, we have not, I don't believe, since maybe these bylaws were established in 2004. I wasn't here the last couple of years, so I don't know if you all did anything. But I don't believe during my other years of 10 years since 2004, any bylaws or any other policy has been established for rules and regulations. And just as we are discussing an item that we see has come into existence without our knowledge or approval, I believe that we should not try to adopt anything without the input of the supervisor, who is prominently mentioned of being of having a lot of responsibilities in these bylaws. I think she needs to give us some input. In fact, make some statements as to things that she may want added or taken out. And I see that there's a number of things since 2004, which is now 9 years ago, 9 years past, that we may want to add. I mean, I believe we need to do some things, but I don't want us to adopt something and then we find that it's not relevant, we've left out this, we put more authority on the board and the supervisor that we, want to. That's my opinion.
Member Gordon?
I agree with everything Attorney Robinson said except for one. I think there should be a bylaw committee. I think rules and procedures should be the one thing that's changed every 2 years. I think the bylaws should be concept, but I believe they do need to be readdressed, because they are a little bit old and stagnant. Our rules and procedures are certainly outdated because some laws have changed that the rules and procedures are premised on, so some things need to be taken out or adjusted. So the rules and procedures, I think, is something that should be taken up by each board. I know we're not voting on that, this is just discussion, but I think we need a bylaw committee, and I think the bylaws could stay in place for a longer period.
Member Ross?
So, let's put this proposal. I move, Madam Chair, that the bylaws will be, that we revise the bylaws of third one election to be established. The work of the supervisor election is submitted to this body. The recommendations by our next meeting scheduled February 14, 2014.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that committee be established to review the bylaws and report that by our next meeting. Any further discussion?
February 14, 2014,
That's what the document says on next meeting.
to review and present.
Yes, but don't forget to work with supervisor.
Okay. Present and work with supervisor.
Motion.
There's a motion on the floor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There was a second?
Yes, there were 2 seconds.
Yes.
But can I make a suggestion that we don't have?
Amendment?
No, just a general
So
suggestion.
you can finish this motion first.
But,
Yes. Yeah, you got to vote on the motion. I'll be passed. And then you can submit,
And
right?
you can suggest.
Unless you want to.
the suggestion has to do with passing the motion. You remember yesterday?
Okay, well, then
you
I will
said
object for the purposes of discussion.
Remember yesterday we were instructed that if there was, I think a number of things that we're dealing with today, there will be consensus on it. So rather than go through a roll call, you could say, the chair could say, if there's no objection, the motion carries. As long as the motion is acted upon, we don't need a roll call. If you want to move this along, it's just a suggestion, a procedural suggestion.
Any objection?
I withdraw my
A
objection.
point of information, I also heard yesterday that even though you don't need a roll call, you need a vote call so that we know who is present, who voted for it, and who did not
That's a roll call.
No,
That's not accurate.
That's not.
That's what I understood.
Let me restate what I said. You need an action on the motion. The action can simply be that the chair says, hearing no objection, the motion carries. We know who's here because we have attendance already. So you don't have to have a roll call or a vote. The vote consists of no objection. It's done in the.
Any objections to the motion?
I will withdraw my objection, Madam Chair, at this point.
Okay, any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is carried. I'd like to,
What motion? Are you gonna do that now? You're gonna appoint people now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That was also asked that to be done.
I'd like, Member Ross, I know you said you're very busy.
Give it the work. When I
But those are the ones that we gave over to you. Member Ross, Member Harris Morgan, Member Waddington's district.
And Member Hendrick.
Yes, she needs to do some, Member Henry. And you report that, let me know when the meetings are, you can meet by telephone. That's Williams, Ross, Harris Morgan, and Waddington, and Henry. Member Williams?
I know we just passed a motion to put the work out to a committee, a subcommittee. But I'd like to, if it's not objectionable, to move in terms of expediting our process. My motion is to adopt a policy under the bylaws, under section 7 of the bylaws, meetings of the board, that we adopt a policy to allow for video conferencing capabilities, to utilize video conferencing to host meetings whenever necessary or on the call of the chair. So moved.
They moved and seconded, paraphrasing that we allow video conferencing for meetings at the call of the chair. Discussion. On this, Article 7, Section
Article 7 of the bylaws. It'll become a new section, but it'll be a section.
Objection, there was an objection, you would state your objection.
Hold on. I just want to get a motion correct. Since we have not adopted the bylaws, I don't know if it's necessary that we refer to a specific article of a bylaw that we haven't adopted as a mayor person.
Well, I specifically placed it there because it comes under the existing article 7
I think
in the bylaws.
okay, well, I put as consistent with
Bylaws of
with
2004, page 5, section
Bylaws.
7.
Objection.
Okay.
Objection?
I don't care to express my objection, but I object.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Roll call, Member Ross?
No, I was going to request a roll call vote.
Roll call?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to allow the chair that our supervisor is correct.
Good morning, Mrs. Fox. We're discussing the bylaws about meeting by video conferencing. And there's a motion on the floor about to vote on that, and then we need to go back and speak to roll call on the motion by Member Williams.
Mr. Lawrence, Larry Bishotti, absent. Laura Jordan, absent. Roma Monsanto, absent. Lydia Hendricks,
Yes.
Harry Daniel, absent. Alicia Wells,
Yes.
Drew Waddington, yes. Liliana Villar O'Neill,
No.
Ben Webster,
Yes.
Lisa Harris Morehead,
Yeah.
Roland Molina, absent. Delbert Bryan, absent. Rupert Ross Jr., Raymond Williams, Madam Chair, 7 years, 1 nay, 6 absent.
Motion is passed.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion, please.
Motion, Mr. Member Webster.
I move that we establish the rules and regulations committee.
That was a motion.
No, we did the bylaw.
That's a standard.
We have it.
Isn't it a standard?
What was your motion, Member
Rules
Webster?
and regulations.
To establish. But the bylaws isn't it in the
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam, I object.
You want to state your objection?
Madam Chair, I believe that even though we just said the bylaws committee, that committee is more than capable of doing both the bylaws and the rules and regs. And both of them are pretty much one of the same.
Right.
I don't think there should be any separate committee that will work, whether redundancy in terms of the committee. So I think I would urge and ask Mr. Webster to withdraw rather than put it to a vote and in fact it be voted down because it's just redundant in terms of property.
Member Ross?
I commend Mr. Webster for raising the issue. I think that, however, our bylaws establish the rules and regulations for the planning committee of the body, and all that needs to be done is, it represents the state, the chair to assign its members, and she can do so. That Martin Daniels recommended.
So Mr. Webster? Mr. Webster? Member Webster?
So we're calling the bylaws rules and regulations committee.
Let's interchange reading.
What Mr. if I may, Madam Chair,
Let's see, Member Ross.
Mr. Webster, what Mr. Ross is saying is that in the bylaws, it establishes a standing committee thereafter as the rules and regulations committee.
Right.
So it would be really redundant to establish it separately from the bylaws, in the bylaws when that committee, because it establishes the committee right then and there. So it would be somewhat redundant to have a vote to establish a separate rules and regulations committee.
That would
And is the second withdrawn also? Is the second withdrawn also?
Are you withdrawing your second?
Motion was withdrawn.
First time withdrawn.
Yeah. But you gotta withdraw it.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I have a motion.
Motion.
Madam Chair.
Point of order, Madam Chair. And then, I think we'll establish the members of the committee.
She did.
Your point.
But I apologize, I didn't hear it.
Oh.
Could you state that to the
Members Ross, Harris, Moore, and Watlington, Hendricks,
And William.
and Williams. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of member Florida Georges.
Good afternoon, members of the.
Good night.
Nice to.
Motion.
There was a motion, member Bilal.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move a motion that was adopted by the St. Croix District, presented to the joint board to adopt the proposed candidate questionnaire. So move.
Second.
You want to add a second?
It's been moved and second to
Move.
the questionnaire, and there's no objection. The question,
Questionnaire.
Objection.
Adopted by
St. Croix board. Member Moore, and we just, let's write this in our question. And second by member Wilson. Member objection?
Objection.
My objection is really more a recommendation, but just for the background, I've had this discussion with the members who passed this already, so hopefully it will be acceptable to everyone. Yesterday, there was some discussion by, I believe it was Supervisor Fox, that she had already forwarded this questionnaire to legal counsel, meaning the AG's office. We had a discussion as to, and who is supposed to opine as to whether or not there are any problems with the questionnaire as in its present form. My suggestion, which I hope will move this faster, is that rather than just give it to her for her legal review, that the people who worked on this would meet with her prior to her giving us an opinion, and then present something that she has already said is okay legally.
Point of
And that
order.
way-
Is that
Point of order.
member Ross?
The motion before us is to adopt, not to transmit.
Unless there's another motion you'd like to make, member,
Amendment.
or amend the motion.
Okay, I amend the motion to, rather than adopt it this time, since the AG is already considering this for legal sufficiency, that prior to her coming back and saying yea or nay, that the group that formulated the questionnaire meet with her, so the board has a legally sufficient questionnaire when it comes back to us, rather than just an opinion as to whether it's good or not.
Point of order, Madam Chair. I believe, my point of order is that I think Member Harris Moorhead motion or amendment is out of order, even though it is in an effort to be helpful, because the main motion is to adopt the questionnaire, and the motion, the amendment before us is suggesting that the members of the St. Croix district who are proponents of this questionnaire meet with the council, and what's before us is either we adopt it or we don't adopt it. If in fact it is a motion that the members meet with, directly to meet with the council while she formulates her opinion, that is inconsistent with whether we adopt the motion or don't adopt the motion. Either we have to vote it up or vote it down, and then if that's a second motion to have them meet with the council, then that's totally separate. But I think you can't do both. The amendment doesn't help the motion. Either the motion has to be voted up or voted down, or in fact, and then Attorney Harris Moorhead's motion can be put on the table, but it can't be on the table at the same time. So what you have to do is either you make a ruling on that.
Okay. The motion has something to say.
Member Harris, Moorhead, for your amendment? Because that amendment was brought to the member.
One second,
Never seconded.
Okay. Member Vladimir.
Madam Chairman, I withdraw my motion so that I can allow Member Moorhead to present her motion.
Okay, so that, I will second,
Motion.
your withdrawal to member Webster.
Motion in the
Yeah,
interest.
second. Okay, so now the
Motion,
new motion.
in the interest of time, it's the same as what I just said, if people remember. Is there a second?
Come to me.
Okay, I'll restate it.
Please.
Motion, I move that the committee that, of the District, St. Croix District Board, meet with legal counsel while she is reviewing the proposed questionnaire, which she has already been presented with for legal sufficiency, and then come back to the joint board with what they have discussed, and she has agreed is legally sufficient.
Second.
It's been moved by member
Second.
Harris, more than second by member Yolanda Devine at the St. Croix District.
Objection.
Meets with objection.
Go ahead. Meet with
Meets
council.
with council to discuss the proposed questionnaire as submitted. Also provide objection.
Actually, a point of clarification. You said the members of the district or the members specifically? The proponents are.
The proponents, whoever, I mean, I don't know who all was, whether it was a committee or just the proponents.
There
The
were
proponents.
the point of information.
Go right ahead.
To the chair. There was 4 members present in that meeting, and 4 members voted for adoption of the question.
So the board is going to be just the 4 members?
The 4 members.
The 4 members who composed that did the questionnaire.
So I'll change it to the proponents.
Okay, and Ms. Walsh will set up that meeting with, adding this with Attorney Salisbury for the 4 persons to discuss the question.
Madam Chairman, I read the motion as I understand it.
Yes.
Is to authorize the members and the proponents of the St. Croix District to meet with council to discuss the proposed questionnaire of candidates while the legal opinion is being formulated.
Objection.
Member Ross?
It's a real occasion.
Excuse me?
It's just a real occasion. I am uncomfortable with that process. Because I think the decision as to whether a questionnaire should become part of the election process is a decision of this board.
As soon as it comes to a vote.
It's a decision of this board. I'm uncomfortable because a document coming back with the legal support of our advisor comes back weighted to this board in favor of adopting whatever the legal advisor sends to us. And I have a problem with that, because I would like to make my decision independent of that process.
Member, this is a discussion. Member Walker?
I can appreciate what Member Ross is saying. However, I think any legal opinion is a legal opinion, and it being a legal opinion, I can appreciate what he's saying, because once it gets out there, it becomes an issue of controversy, whether it should or shouldn't be. but I believe a legal opinion, a discussion on legal opinion is privileged information between client and counsel. And we would have the opportunity, even though it might be 15 clients, and one of the 15 or 3 of the 15 or 4 of the 15 want to take it public, so be it. We are not bound by it, but we have the ability to discuss it privately and air our concerns privately. If the people who have such a vested interest in it want to take it out, then they will take it out to the public. It has nothing, I think, though, that even though you and I mean, I shouldn't say you, even though I disagree with the contents of the proposed questionnaire, we should give our colleagues the opportunity to have their discussions, and as Member Harris indicated, we still have to vote on it. But I think we should give them some deference in terms of they want to hear a legal discussion on it, and they want to get involved in it and air out the concerns. So be it. I know what my position is, and I don't expect people to follow my legal opinions. And the only legal opinions I follow are those of the people in the black robes who have power to enforce the opinions. Other than that, I will be guided by what I think is right or wrong.
Madam Chair,
Thank you.
That's my opinion.
Roll call.
I call the question.
Yes,
The question has been called by Member George's roll call.
That's the way to vote, that's a call question. That's a separate motion. The motion to call the question is a separate motion.
Let's call the question cut off debate.
Yes. So
Okay.
now you have to vote
Now
on
we're
that.
going to-
No, I have to vote on that.
Okay.
You have to vote on
All right,
that.
we're voting on.
No, you have to have a second. You second it.
Second.
Yeah.
Yes, we're voting on the motion to cut off debate. Cut off debate. Roll call on the motion to cut off debate.
Lauren Luchalti, absent. Claudia George.
Yes.
Wilma Mars Monsanto, absent. Lydia Hendrick.
Yes.
Harry Daniel, absent. Alicia Wells.
Yes.
Arturo Watlington, yea. Liliana Velarde, Leonid.
Yes.
Glenn Webster.
Yes.
Lisa Harris Mohen.
Yes.
Delbert Bryan, absent. Rupert Ross. No.
Yes.
Yes, Madam Chair, 8 yeas, 1 nay, 4 absent.
Debate has been curtailed. Roll call on the motion. Please
Lauren
repeat.
Bishalti, you want me to repeat the motion? It is to authorize the members, the proponents of the St. Croix district to meet with council to discuss the proposed questionnaire of candidates while the legal opinion is being formulated. Larry Bishalti, absent. Claudia George.
Yes.
Wilma Mas Monsanto, absent. Lydia Hendricks. Harry Daniel, absent. Alicia Wells.
Yes.
Arturo Watlington, abstain. Liliana Velarde O'Neill.
Yes.
Glenn Webster.
Yes.
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 Gita Harris Mohed.
Yes.
Roland Molina, absent. Adelbert Bryan, absent. Rupert Ross. No. Sir Ross, no. Madam Chair, I'd like to change my vote to no. Madam Chair, Wilma Williams.
No.
Madam Chair, 6 years, 3 nays, 5 absent.
The motion is carried. And this forms will set up the meeting with the persons and attorney center and we should be there also to report back to us.
Madam Chair, I have a motion.
Member Waddington Jr.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to reconsider our motion, reconsider the item that was passed on yesterday to authorize Ms. Fox to sign on the election system bank account. I so move.
Clarification, you mean Thursday?
Thursday.
What do you want?
I was on the prevailing side, so I'd like to move to reconsider the authorization of Ms. Fox to sign on the election system bank account. I so move.
I second, because I'm interested in finding out what it is.
Okay, so moved in second. Discussion?
Yesterday, I think, one of the reasons yesterday that I Thursday that I tried to object for discussion purposes was because I believe that it is necessary that Ms. Fox has the authority to sign on the election system bank account. However, I think that blanket authorization puts us right back in the same situation that we were in with the audit report and with the voter identification registration fund, as I was pointing out, which is embodied in Title 33, Section 3097. I think Ms. Fox should have the authority to operate a petty cash, whether it's account, whether it's by cash, whether it's by bank account, clearly, and whatever other operational situation. However, I believe this board must be a part of the voter identification and registration fund administration. By statute, it says the supervisor of elections shall be the sole authority empowered to write checks on the imprest fund checking account, which I believe they have meshed, and that's why we got a little controversy or confusion with it. That have meshed the voter identification registration fund as the imprest fund. And I too was getting a little confused because I heard me talk about the imprest fund, and I know the proper statutory title to be the voter identification and registration fund. That fund consists of monies that are collected by the system every day for duplicate voter IDs, $25 a shot. Don't know how much it is, but that was one of the subjects of the audit report, which indicated that we should not have a singular individual or person signing solely on that account. And that was one of the subjects. What we did, we authorized that blanketly. I'd like for us to reconsider and in fact set up a procedure whereas any of the other officers of the system also be a signatory on that account. It protects this board from continued audit exceptions and it protects the integrity of the system. It would mean that we need to recommend that this language, rather than say under the sole authority of the supervisor of election, that it should be under the authority of the election system. That's the reason for my reconsideration.
I have two questions.
Member
If the speaker could clarify for me, because I didn't hear the discussion, and this is meshing with some discussions of the previous board, and that you weren't on last 2-year cycle. There had been a wealth of discussion about whether or not there should be one signatory on the impress fund, which we know is by statute. And have we done anything, or is this board's intention to bring that to the fore in front of the legislature as to whether or not that should just be one signature? So I'm trying to get the whole context. I hear what you're saying, but then you also said all of the officers of the board. What do you mean by that? You mean, wait a minute. Because you're not talking about 6 people, are you? I mean, it just seems cumbersome to have more than 2 or 3 people who can sign. So I'm asking for the speaker to explain what he means by all officers.
So let me backtrack quickly, and I won't be very long. What I just said was one of the measures I presented to the joint board just before we voted on this Thursday, where the St. Thomas District discussed the same issue and we voted to recommend to the joint board that we have more than one signature. It doesn't matter to me, I struck officers. I am just saying that for the convenience of Ms. Fox, because she should have been looking for Ms. Wells, who may not be available, or Arturo Watkington, or Delbert Bryan, or Liliana Delgado, O'Neill, but should have the luxury of having one of many members of the joint board available to execute any checks that in fact would be necessary for the operation of the system. So that's why I draw officer. I'm open to anything, but I'm saying it is an audit exception that was clearly outlined in the audit report, and it has been a point of contention. I know when I was on the board from a number of the members that this voter ID and registration fund, ID, impress fund account only statutorily authorizes one signature, and it should not be. I would like for us to have this discussion and say that change that language and recommend on tomorrow that that's one of the items that be amended by the legislature.
Okay, thank you. And my one follow-up to that is when you say officers, you mean the executive board of the joint board or officers of the joint board as opposed to, maybe we've got 2 levels of
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. To me, that would be in Ms. Fox, whatever Ms. Fox feels comfortable.
Okay, again, good morning. Based on what Mr. Washington read, again, to follow up. The issue is that Mr. Ross said you have to pass a resolution right now so I can have access to the folks resolution. Like I stated, I sent a letter to the commissioner. Again, this law was written in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Based on what I'm going now, the funds goes into a bank account right now, Banco Popular, and I cannot write a check because it's through the ERP system. I'm not finished with what you're going to do. So I understand we need to change the law, but I'm saying again, first we said you have to give me authority to speak to anyone. So we wait on the minutes, submit that to the bank. The bank has 2 accounts. I'm getting it in writing from the commissioner. Like I said, follow up to that, said impress fund / the only account that have access to my check would be a petty cash fund straight to the bank to take out funds, do things like this, paying on this year. My suggestion is rewarding the boards in here, but again, you need to leave some authority to supervisor, because if you don't leave the authority, anybody can do it. Any clock in the election system, if you put that broad. My recommendation would be that every department that you go to, they have a comment. The supervisor of election is the authority empowered to authorize the writing of checks, signatures. However, 2 certifying officers of the election system will be required on all checks for withdrawal from the fund. Because if I have funds to deposit, I am not running around looking for 2 persons to deposit money. I think withdrawal is the issue. I'm just saying I explained in a paragraph. You have to interpret it, add to it, revise it, what the law said. That's how I'm saying. So you write the code, revise it, still have the policy. Because if you get some folks on the election system, a deputy could take over it. And then they have no input from the supervisor. And if you go in other departments, each department head is empowered to do certain things. It's wording. And then you add that they should have 2 signature authorities to approve any withdrawal from them.
And we're willing.
And I appreciate too everything that Dr. Watson spoke to, but the resolution that was passed was so that we can allow for the supervisor to move forward. I agree that tomorrow at the meeting of the committee, we should probably bring that up to amend the law to incorporate additional signatories because of the added exceptions. But the reason the resolution read what it did initially was so that we can move the process forward. Because it's clarified that that's how it has to happen. We can vote on any motion to improve that or to add additional signatories, but it could be legal because the code specifically only authorizes the supervisor.
Let the record show that member Muller, alright? Member Watley.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with what Ms. Fox, well, I do have a problem with what Ms. Fox is saying, because right now the deposits are being made by anybody. A deposit into any account can be made by anyone. I'm not saying that you have to, people don't sign deposits. I can deposit money in any one of your accounts if I have your account number. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I do it from time to time. It's not a deposit because money are being collected by clubs and deposited in the bank now. All I'm saying, what we did yesterday was authorize only Ms. Fox to be, yes, no, that's not how we can do it. Yeah. We authorize Ms. Fox, only Ms. Fox, to be the signatory.
No, we did not.
That's what we
We
did.
authorized her to pass a resolution to go, authorize her to go to the bank and change the signature on the interest fund of which the supervisor is so. That's what we
And
did.
that will be the only person who is authorized on the account.
And that's
And that's what the law says. But if that's what the law says, that's what, my motion to reconsider what you said. No, the law says that. And even though the law says that, the audit has said that we have been derelict in allowing this to continue. And that's let me say this. I am not saying I'm saying that I'm moving from it.
Court before the meeting together, one at a time, please, just let this go, I'm kidding you.
I understand that, that's what you're saying, the law says, but all you have done is already just continue the same thing from changing one signature to the other. That's all you done. So, if you guys, all I'm saying, if you don't want to reconsider it, then vote it down. But all I'm saying, it doesn't matter whether you say, whether it's a chair or some person who's accessible to Ms. Fox, but if this board passed a resolution, the bank ain't going to look in here to see if any other member of the board is saying, if the board can authorize, if the only entity that can authorize Ms. Fox, the change from John Abramson to Ms. Fox, then this board could authorize that Ms. Fox and any other member be the secretary.
Member Harris Morgan?
Objection. To the statement. I mean, I disagree with the statement that I made because I believe at this point that's the only thing that's going on is to change it. What we can do is what Member Watlington is suggesting, tell the Senate how necessary it is to change it because I'm speaking. Because we cannot make a motion that violates the law.
Thank you.
Member Ross, will you say something before Mrs. Fox?
Member Moorhead articulated very well.
Very well, Mrs. Fox.
Okay, yes. I too read the audit report as a supervisor. I've changed some of the internal systems. Instead of the same person collecting the cash.
One conversation at a time.
Instead of the same persons collecting the cash and taking it to the bank, I've implemented a process and changing those persons. The person who collects is not the person who takes it to the bank. That's number one. Number two, I also got QuickBooks and like purchase and they could be reimbursed so that those folks could use that system. And when I look in the folder in files that came out, 2004 they had QuickBooks. So somehow it was there and we stopped using it. But that's for the internal funds because the receipts could be manipulated, which is what we put in the audit. So I'm doing corrective measures internally to say, things are going to change. But again, I'm telling you, the money goes into finance. I'm waiting on the commissioner letter. It goes into the ERP system. So I can't write a check and get the money myself. And I would not do that. But again, based on what everybody's saying, the law says my name, fine. But I know what I can't do. But the point is, things have changed. So the audit report said that. But we changed internal measures to get to that. Because when I get the commissioner letter, I tell you, ERP, I mean, you know it, right? Everybody knows ERP. I cannot write a check from the ERP system. And that's where the money is going right now. Only fund, like I said, that I have access to, will have access to, as in $800, right across the bank account. It's two accounts, the bank account.
I call it a question.
Is it cash?
Second, huh?
The 800,000
Yes,
is cash.
it was a really long statement, so you could see it, but I should have.
I will still need to get a copy of the minutes to add to the resolution to take to the.
Very
All
bad.
right, the question has been called. Is there a vote on, a second on the? Second. The vote on calling the question. Any objection?
Objection.
State your objection.
I don't.
All right,
We'll call Laurie Bishotti, absent. Claudia Georges. Wilma Monsanto, absent. Lydia Hendricks. Harry Daniels, absent. Alicia Wells.
yes.
Arturo Watlington. Yes.
Yes?
Liliana Velada O'Neill.
Excuse me?
Liliana Velada O'Neill.
Yes.
Glenn Webster.
Yes.
Isaac Moed.
Yeah.
Roland Molina. Delbert Bryan, absent. Rupert Ross.
Yeah.
Junior, yes. Raymond Williams.
Yes.
Madam Chair, 9 yeas. 1 abstention, 4 absent.
You remember a second?
I think, yeah, somebody check on it, I don't know.
Yes, it was a
All right, for your motion, mistake.
I second, yes. Okay, Mr. Ross, second, yeah.
So we're now voting on the motion.
Move on to reconsideration. Lawrence Larry Bashanti, absent. Claudia Georges.
Yes.
Wilma Marsh Monsanto, absent. Lydia Hendrick.
We're voting on.
According to reconsideration.
Resolution that was passed on Thursday.
Lydia Hendrick, no. Harry Daniel, absent. Alicia Wells.
No.
Arturo Watlington, yes. Liliana Velada O'Neill.
No.
No. Glenn Webster. Glenn Webster.
No.
Roland Molina. Delbert Bryan, absent. Rupert Ross. No. Junior. No. Raymond Williams.
No.
Madam Chair, 6 yeas. I'm sorry. Madam Chair. One abstention, 4 absent.
So the motion has.
I'm sorry, I didn't call Ms. Morehead, I apologize. Mr. Morehead?
No.
Yes. Madam Chair, 2 yeas, 7 yeas, 1 abstention, 4 absent.
Motion?
Member Williams?
No. You accepted that motion?
Yes. It's
Passed.
passed.
Okay.
It failed.
It failed.
I understand. She said I have to record it. So. My motion is that, and we can discuss it, that the members going before the legislature tomorrow to discuss election reform, by a consensus of this board, include for discussion the section that you quoted in the code to be revised. In addition to that, my motion also includes that the calendar, the information on the calendar that the subcommittee reviewed and discussed, that the information be shared with that committee of the inaccuracies and dates of the last act number 73, 75, 35,
65.
75, 65. So moved.
Second.
Amendment?
Objection.
Amended.
It's been moved in second and objected and amended.
Objection.
Objection?
I don't disagree with everything that Mr. Williams said. I agree that we should bring to the attention of the legislature the issue that the casting of lots come before the withdrawal of the candidates, even though I don't believe it's something that is problematic, number one. Number two, I don't have a problem with the discussion of the impress fund / voter ID and registration fund in terms of what should be amended. However, I think that there are other items that we need to discuss now before we limit it to just those 2 items. Because we have the 3 other items that we discussed on last Monday's meeting, and I think everything should be all-inclusive in terms of us, when we go to the legislature, that whoever speaks, that we speak with one singular voice, because we haven't discussed the item of the separate nomination of a lieutenant governor by the successful gubernatorial candidate. We haven't discussed the board's opinion on the universal primary. We haven't discussed the item of the what the other item? Early registration. Even though I believe all of us agree with the concept, but how it is written in that amendment, it creates as if you are giving special privilege for people to vote early rather than to just create a process that would be also inclusive, such as we do the absentee voting. So I think that just to say that the person going before the legislature should be limited to those 2 items, I think we need to have that discussion so we can have some consensus. And that's why I said on Monday to Ms. Capard, or her representative, that I can't speak for this board and the board's position, and I think Mr. Williams echoed the same thing. So I would think that I want to suggest that I would say that Mr. Williams' motion is not comprehensive enough that it should be adopted at this time.
But my motion was to discuss it.
Yes, but I've seen the 5 items.
Member Ross, thank you.
I want a discussion on that. I don't need a
Member Ross has the floor. Member Ross has the floor.
Madam Chief, I understand Member Williams' motion is asking this board to approve 2 items to address and not into legislation.
No, it's for discussion.
So I will discuss. But I don't.
Member Ross has the floor.
I didn't interpret his motion to be excluding any other discussion. And any other member wants an issue to be discussed before the committee on Monday, make a motion and pass it on. We are really muddying the process.
We have the item.
Then make a motion.
This was the agenda, so we'll be making.
Member Ross has the floor.
I'm sorry.
Let us dispose of this motion and then we go on to the agenda and add the
Amendment to the motion.
Is it improper for somebody else?
Member Ross has the floor. Are you finished, Member Ross? Member Lisa Harris Owen.
And somebody tell me procedurally if this is improper. I would like to provide this board with some background information. Anybody have a problem?
This is discussion?
Discussion.
With respect to what's happening tomorrow, number one, the legislative session that was scheduled for this week has been canceled. The intent of the legislature is that they special order these bills to the floor, all of the bills that were in front of us. My concern with that as a member of this board and also looking for the legislature is that there has not been a full discussion with any legislative boards about their bill other than Senator Graham, who was the only senator who attended. My other concern is the meeting tomorrow comes after a major family funeral. I'm not sure how much time is going to be given, which is one of the reasons I'm not attending, to this board to fully vet those other bills. My third concern is that given that the purpose of Senator Capar's first meeting, teleconference meeting on Monday, was that the board could fully discuss the meeting, the proposed legislation with all the proponents and any other senator who chose to attend, but then we only had one senator attend because there was a rules meeting that was scheduled subsequently. We have lost we will be right back where we were when we had the first meeting with Senator Capehart, which personally I feel is going to be a waste of time. I do believe that we have to come to some consensus as to what needs to be addressed. And my concern is mirrors Member Washington's, that it has to be comprehensive. I also don't think that Member Williams' motion was excluding anything, but I think we need to, when we're discussing it and when we are presenting whatever our consensus is, that we are sure in our consensus and sure that we can explain it properly to these senators who honestly don't, some of whom don't have any understanding of the electoral process. So I have obviously laid out a number of concerns, because this is very serious, because the only session that's going to come to play prior to this election where there can be any changes made is in January, because that's it. The 6-month requirement ends in January because of when the primary is. So we have to be very careful that we, as Member Watkins said, we don't go there fractured. But we also, this board needs to have an understanding of what these bills propose and what the concerns are about the bills. We've dealt with the calendar, I think, very comprehensively. I think we're prepared on that, but I don't think this board is prepared to do anything at this point except discuss comprehensively all of those things that are in front of us. And I also believe that subsequent to this meeting, we should have something in writing signed by the joint board chair that since we're not going to do it by tomorrow, other than submitting the calendar, that we should have something in writing so when the Senate fails to, once again, I hate to be so negative, to pass the things or address the things that we brought up, that what our position is on record.
Madam Chair, I would draw my motion. Because we're going to discuss it.
Okay.
I would draw my motion.
And the second is withdrawn, we need to vote on that.
No.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
So we're moving.
So what are we doing tomorrow?
Well, but that's what the discussion is number 9.
Right.
You told my paper.
No, this one.
You sure?
Yes, I got many to you. The other item is number 9.
Discussion on Title 18 reform measures.
Can I use it?
Yes.
Madam Chair, point of information, I wanted to make an amendment, but since Mr. Williams withdrew his amendment, this is just for information purposes. In that discussion, I would like the members to consider discussing the names of persons who are seeking election to appear the same way it appears on the registration card. And that's just for the purpose of discussion, Member Warrington. I will bring it to the members so that we can discuss that.
What? That's a motion?
No.
No.
Discussion.
As part of this?
Yes.
As a,
Okay, well, discuss it now.
she did.
Would you like to elaborate some on that, Member?
Madam Chair, the District of St. Croix adopted a motion that requires the name of any person who is seeking office, that the name on the ballot appears as the same as the appear on the registration card in the Board of Election. We fully discussed nicknames, and we're saying if your registration doesn't say Lily Cubana, I shouldn't run as Lily Cubana, I should run as Liliana Pelado de Unido, and that's what appears in my registration card. So if I wanted to run as Lily Cubana, then I would go and change my registration to say Lily Cubana Pelado de Unido, as long as it meets the 22 character that is by law stated. And that was the purpose of that, because we have people running, we have people register under one name, and then they're running with a nickname. Sometimes the nickname is longer, and it creates a problem for the ballots. And that's just for discussion purposes.
Thank you. Member Williams?
Just adding to your conversation and bringing a perspective, when you register to get elected in either district, the registration card, the information that's placed on the registration card is information that comes off, that is extracted from your passport, your birth certificate, or naturalization form. So when you register to vote, you cannot put a nickname on it because that is not representative of what that information is.
And that's my point.
Right, but you have to extract the information. So I hear you clearly.
And that's strengthening my point because if...
No, you said that they can go back and change.
Well, that was the discussion.
I was just clarifying, yes, but I was just clarifying that.
Discussion that we had in our meeting.
Right. You cannot change your registration as a nickname. That's my point.
And if the law says that your name should be extracted from your passport or birth certificate or the naturalization, then why should you register with a nickname that doesn't go along with your real name? And that's the discussion that we had.
Madam Chair, I don't know why I don't see the need, I don't see why we are trying to be so restrictive. Any candidate that wants to participate in the election should have the opportunity to partake in the election how they deem most practical for themselves. If in fact, and here's a prime example, I'm not sure that we have anybody by the name of Adelbert M. or Brian. And if Adelbert M. or Brian wants to put his name down as Adelbert M. or Brian on the document, or Adelbert or Brian, on his paraphernalia, or on the name that appears on the ballot, he should have the right to do so. If I want to put Arturo Waddington, I should have the right to do so. What harm is it for anybody to use any type of nickname or pet name when we are seeking election by popular vote? That's what it's about, popular vote. It's not about formal vote. It's about popular vote. A lot of people know other people by other names. I have never used my nickname on any official document, but it is a popular vote. You're soliciting vote through popularity. You use what is most popular to be elected. It doesn't go to your qualifications, and it doesn't change who you are, and it doesn't change your birth certificate. I see a lot of people writing down their name as James Brown Sr. There's no such person. You never get the name Senior. Yet people do that. And I don't know why we are hung up on a name. If it says it must be 22 characters, we're limited to 22 characters. If you want to call your name Arturo Cat Ass Badminton and a thing, if you call it ass, not a bad word. If on a document, if it gets you votes, we shouldn't restrict that. That should be your call.
Madam Chair,
I don't know. Let me finish now.
He's taking all the time, the man said you can't.
All I'm saying,
I have a right to be heard.
all I'm saying is that, it's a recommendation, but why are we being so restricted? Who are we punishing? Is there some viable reason as to why?
Madam Chairman, I said that this was just a discussion and we are not prohibiting anyone from going out there and campaigning and the nickname with a popular name as Liliana Cubana. And I'm just referring that when I had a problem in Santo Domingo, the senators them started calling me Lili Cubana. Well, I could go and say, I'm running as Lily Cubana, campaign under Lily Cubana, but why should I have it in the Board of Election ballot as Lily Cubana when it's not in my registration card? And that's what I'm saying. You want to campaign on your popular vote? Okay, go ahead and campaign. We're not saying you can't do that. But I think for uniformity, we should have it the way that it was discussed. And it's just for discussion. I'm not saying adopt it or anything, just for discussion.
Any other comments, member Harrison? Senior member.
Is it emotional?
No.
That's what I was.
We have to wrap up soon because of the
That's what's on the agenda?
Okay.
discussion.
But
Member
motion, can we discuss only the reforms that we've got to address tomorrow?
Well,
I mean, if we don't have a consensus when we come out of here, everybody's gonna say as they did and as they properly should. I'm expressing my opinion as Raymond Williams, as Arturo Watlington, as Alicia Wells, whoever goes there, because we still don't have a joint board discussion to present to the legislature. Now, while I may feel that Senator Capehart should have postponed her meeting, since there is no session, we have no control over that. And if we, no, she did not. I called her staffer up to last night.
So one still, we say still at one?
Up until last night it was, I haven't heard anything different, but out here I haven't heard anything since the phones went down again. But I mean, I tried to find out so I could advise.
So your motion
But
is?
is that we only discuss the things that we want to put in front of the legislature tomorrow, come to the.
is that motion?
Pardon me?
Is that motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody seconded it.
Second.
The James are?
Object.
Motion that we only,
And then it could be my motion.
we discuss
How can you do that?
under 9. Only the item that was discussed Monday, or are you including the item of the voter registration and identification form also?
Only those things that this board thinks we're gonna discuss Monday.
Okay.
I
Only
mean,
the items,
should include the legislation, because that's what they're looking for an opinion on.
What is clarification?
What, Member Williams?
Member Moore,
Yes, sir.
what are you saying?
I am saying the
We're
thing,
limiting the discussion before the committee tomorrow to only include those items that we discussed on Monday with Kingpark's committee?
no, what I'm saying is, can this group limit our discussion now on those things that we are going to have a consensus on, whatever they are, to present tomorrow? If this thing about, I go to the bathroom on another agenda.
We got you.
The thing with the names came out as something new, I think we don't have time to, we have much more,
Okay.
not to poo-poo your suggestion.
We got you.
important
I got
things
you.
to do.
I got you.
The items for discussion tomorrow, or that we're going to present this in the same part, items are,
She's not limited yet.
no, she's
That's
not
what she
limited.
said. She doesn't want us to move the agenda.
She don't want us to discuss the item of the names.
No, she's saying for this meeting.
For this
meeting.
Yeah,
So we can move the agenda.
yeah, okay.
That's what our motion is.
The items addressing in Title 18.
Whatever you want to discuss, tomorrow, discuss.
No.
The point is that she wants to move the meeting agenda forward.
Right, the agenda is to discuss the items in Title 18 before. That's what's on the agenda.
No.
The voter ID and registration form is on Title 33.
She,
is there a second?
I second the motion. Rupert second the motion and I call the question. Let's move forward. Come.
All right. Any objection?
No.
Any objection?
Point of information. Councilor, you said that the voter ID registration form is Title 33. 33. I amend the motion to include that as a presentation to the Senate.
Member Ross, Madam Chair.
Wrote this registration yesterday, but really,
I just want to clarify again. Member Moyer's motion is just to
For
close the discussion here. Tomorrow, each individual can bring to the Senate or whatever they want to have.
But that's it.
No, not what I said. Do I need to say?
please restate, because I don't remember what I heard.
Do you want me
Please
to
restate.
restate it?
Please.
My motion was to limit our discussion now to only those things, or to come to a consensus on those things that we are going to present tomorrow, not to talk about ancillary things or things that are not absolutely necessary for this upcoming election.
Okay.
I mean, other things can be addressed, whatever we think has to be passed in January. Because this is going to be our only opportunity that I know of to give them any input, other than I suggested earlier that we do a letter after the meeting. Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Point
Any
of-
objections?
Point of information.
Point of information,
Madam Chair.
Member Blar.
Ms. Mohammed says she's not going to be there. There are only few members of this committee that are going to be there. I am going to be there, but I don't know what you all discuss in these committees and what you are going to come up with, so I need to know that. And I am going to bring up the registration card. So whether Mohammed is in agreement, she's not going to be there, but I'm going to bring it up. I'm sorry.
No. If there's a consensus of the board, you're not
Oh,
going to bring it up. The consensus
You
makes,
can
wait a minute,
freedom of speech,
please, let's not just have argument for argument's sake. If the board is acting as a board, what we present, what the legislature wants is not what happened before. Liliana's saying, I want this, Lisa's saying she wants this, Ruby's saying, the board, the Senate wants to know what the board has decided. That's why I'm asking. I don't care if that's in or not. What I'm saying is the board has to make this decision. So we don't all, we're going to have, whoever attends is going to have limited time. on trying to do it.
Did you say something, Member Blar? Did you say something, Member Blar? All right, vote on the motion.
Larry Shorty, absent. Claudia Georges. Wilma Marshall Shando, absent. Lydia Hendricks. No, you said?
You want a change?
Harry Daniel, absent. Alicia Wells.
Yes.
Arturo Watlington, yes. Liliana Velarde O'Neill.
No.
Glenn Webster.
Yes.
Lisa Harris Moorhead.
Yes.
Roland Molina. No. Delbert M. Bryan, absent. Rupert Ross.
Yeah.
Raymond Williams.
Yes.
Change my vote to yes.
My vote is yes. One yes, my vote is yes. Alicia Wells, yes.
Madam Chair, 7 years, 3 nays, 4 absent. I didn't miss anyone.
Mr. Secretary.
I didn't know I got to miss Moorhead. He said yes.
No, dear, you did.
I didn't miss it again. Then I got to know you said yes.
I would say yes. and
Yes,
it's
you
all
did.
my name. That's perfect.
You did. I called you after Glenn Webster. You said yes.
Yeah, Member.
You were number 3.
Member Ross?
Madam Chair, this, you just give me the votes again. 7 years, 3 nays, 4 absent.
Okay. My understanding is that we're seeking consensus and that the 18 for legislative reform, am I correct?
Yes, that we're going to be talking about.
I did for, I don't know, I did for that this board approve the position of Member Webster that there be no same-day registration.
Second.
Madam.
Is that a
No,
motion?
Wait, that we,
The proposed legislation that establishes same-day registration is a legislation we do not support.
Can you give them?
Second, somebody second
Second.
it? Object.
Objection, you want to state your objection?
Yeah, I think that we need to discuss what the entire bill says so that we can have clear and concise representation of what the board wants. I don't think that we should just be able to go to the legislature. Let me finish now. Just go to the legislature and says, we took a vote without discussion and we totally against same-day registration. I know why we should be not pushing it now, and I think we so represented on Monday. But I don't think that but that's just for those of us who are here. There are a number of people who were not there and who Mr. Molina wasn't there, Ms. Hendricks wasn't there, and they don't have no clue what I think it is. Ms. Hendricks, George was there, I don't know if they understand why we took that position, because same-day registration is something progressive. But we need to understand why we would be opposed to it right now.
Member Ross and then member Warren.
And again,
All right, that's my objection.
Member Ross.
I don't, may I suggest again, noble colleague you object to tell us. Just discuss why, if your position is that we shouldn't have same-day registration at this time, just tell us why you take that position.
No, can you take my position?
I'm putting a floor for discussion, that's what we're trying to do.
No, you made a motion.
I asked what the process would be in the same discussion. And then I proceeded to say that I would like to put on hold for discussion his position that we don't support same-day registration.
All right. So my objection is that you want to vote on it for 9:30 something, almost 10 o'clock.
I'd like to put on the record that we don't support same-day registration. You agree with it? Tell me who's going to agree with it. Disagree? Everyone disagree? Well, let's argue with it.
No, we're not arguing, but I think we are doing this.
I'd like to bring this discussion to a conclusion.
But you have a motion. You have a motion on the floor. There's a motion you made.
Did you make a motion? You just say you would suggest.
You made a motion.
Made a motion, it was seconded.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have to dispose of this motion and we probably need to go into recess.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, either we can adjourn or we can, you run this meeting, I know after this.
The motion is on the floor, point of clarification, for those people who weren't in attendance or otherwise are not familiar with Senator Gibbons' bill, it's in two parts. One part is early voting, the other part is same-day registration. For those people who were there on Monday, the discussion was with the one senator was there and whoever was there from the board, and Senator Capehart's staff, was that the consensus of the people there, not the board, nobody made a representation, I mean, the consensus of the board, was that early voting is something that we should do, same-day voting is something that we should do eventually. Same-day registration is the same thing, something we should do eventually. That we didn't feel, the members who were there, that particularly in a gubernatorial election year, that we should try, and in the same year we're implementing new systems, that we should do same-day registration. It was also pointed out, as I just had a discussion with Member Villardo, that where that happened in the States, there were enormously long lines created by that because there were two things going on. People had confusion, some with the new machines, and the process of getting all of people's ID and everything to verify that they could register that day was also taking up time from the clerks. And there was a big hot mess and many challenges to the DC election. I don't think during the presidential election, but the previous election. So that's just a benefit of the discussion that we had on Monday.
That's one, and the second one was?
With respect to the early voting, we were saying, yes, we were in favor of that because we now, actually, although we don't call it early voting, we have early voting, we allow people to come in and do what we're calling absentee voting, and we're asking them to lie, basically, and say, oh, I'm not going to be here on election day, or I'm going to be this, or I'm going to be in the dentist, or, you know, my kid died, I don't know. I mean, no, but seriously, I mean, people, you know, we don't know whether, we don't test whether the reason, we're asking for a reason to allow them to do it. We don't test, there's no way to verify, there's no affidavit sworn, we're just saying, is this, you know, why? Because I'm not going to be here. So we want to change it to early voting so anybody can come in and have the benefit of early voting. And what we had also suggested with respect to early voting is that, at least for this election, it be done only at the board offices.
In each district.
In each district, including St. John. We were going to have some mechanism so people didn't have to travel to St. Thomas if they were part of that district.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
At the suggestion of Mr. Ross, and I just want to add to Attorney Mohed's statement, but that how the bill is crafted, it suggests that, as it's crafted right now, it suggests that you have to go through some application process to create early voting, what's in the bill as it is now drafted, which is not what we want. We want to have just to be authorized to conduct early voting like we conducting elections as we do on November 2nd of this year, on August 2nd, if we do on August 2nd voting.
Let me do walk in.
Like we do walk-in absentee voting.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
And I'm moving to try to dispose of this, so for Member Palados and Alessi, we discussed Kenny Gittens' bill. The next bill was Janet Mellon's bill to have the independent, no-party candidates
register just as.
participate in a primary for the purpose of not having 1,000 people run and having just 7 people. And the conversation pretty much went to suggest that we didn't support it. Some of us didn't support it at that point in time because for a myriad of reasons. To have a registered party system in the Guatemala, you have to meet certain requirements.
5% of the vote of the previous election.
And that wouldn't happen because there's a whole discussion.
I can sum it up, and while I'm not suggesting anybody take this as the legal opinion of the year, anybody can correct me. What would happen, in my opinion, with respect to that bill, what the bill really suggests is we have a no-party party. There is no such thing in the version. There are only 3 recognized parties that went through the process that's required by law to have 5% of the vote in the previous election. You cannot create a no-party party, this is my terminology, by saying all those people who are running no party now have to make up some kind of independent party. There is no such thing as an independent party. My concern with that is it violates freedom of association as well as freedom of speech, because if Mr. Williams is a pro-life candidate and I am a green candidate, how can you force me, if I am in America and get to express my views freely, to associate with him and run against him when we don't have the same views, we're not sharing anything in common. We don't have a party, we don't have the same views, but you're forcing me to run with him and a number of other people who can be all over the, you know, and in every other jurisdiction in the United States, you are allowed to run as whatever you are allowed to, as whatever you want to run as. People think there were only a couple of people running for president. In some jurisdictions, there were 26 people running for president. So I think to suggest that you could do what Senator Milton's bill suggests would be totally unconstitutional, my opinion.
And then there was one more bill.
What was the
What
fourth?
was the other bill?
Madam Chair, do we have a copy of this bill for discussion? I need a copy.
We all have.
Oh yes, Lorena Rivera suggested that she wanted to amend the section of the code that spoke to the supervisor hiring deputies solely and singularly. We wanted to amend the legislation to say that only the supervisor had the authority to hire and not our discussion was that she was doing that for the purpose of what took place this year in terms of what
Please,
But it was all me, but they told me.
you want me to start the Madam Chair?
Excuse me?
Sorry,
I don't.
Mr. Williams.
You speak up.
Okay, let me give you
No, I'm not afraid to answer.
the summary of the bill presented by Senator Rivera is to authorize, to give the authority of appointment for the deputy supervisors instead of the joint board meeting. And what is law now is that the supervisor vets the process, makes a recommendation to the joint boards, and the joint boards approves it. That's what the law speaks to now. What she is proposing is that you take away the authority from the joint board. Solely to the supervisor. Okay?
And the consensus of the members was what?
Basically that we didn't need to do that, and then the reason that she was proposing this is because of the process that we went through this year to hire the supervisor. The process took, in order, and my position was that it did so because the administration of the office of the supervisor fell apart. So there was no 1 year to follow through on what the code stipulates presently. So that's why the board had to act in the fashion that it did.
Well, my concern was more than that, because the board did the same thing before. The process for the new members has been, since I've been on the board and other people, is that the board actually does the vetting. We get the applications, the board does the vetting, the supervisor is part of that, and the supervisor makes the recommendation based on who comes in front of us, and that means who the applicants are. The board, though, has in the last 2 times I've been involved, has vetted the person, recommended, has chosen 3 top people, and then the entire board, this is a committee, the entire board then votes on it. But we also get the supervisor's suggestion, prior to. My concern about giving it entirely to the supervisor is that in the Virgin Islands, this is the only 8-year job in government. So if you give it solely to the supervisor, not disparaging the spots, or anybody, but the idea that I could be supervisor and say, come on, you deputy supervisor, may mean that I'm just hiring my friend.
I have a question because I think we need to speed up. So we have 3 items before the board. One, whether or not we support that bill that Mr. Williams just spoke to. Can everybody say what their position is, whether they nay or for, so that we have some consensus going forward tomorrow that we tell them, we tell the legislature whether they are 1, if you for the appointment of the deputies by the supervisor, that's 1. 2, whether...
Do one at a time.
Okay.
Ask the show.
Yes, show of hands, please.
What is the
The first one, what you just talked
If you're
about.
supporting if you have a question, if you're supporting Senator O'Reilly's bill, we ask him to do it.
Yeah.
But wait a minute, some of us do not have the bills before us.
The
Some
bill,
of us-
but Mr.
I think we have too many chairs in this
No,
joint
no,
board. Come on.
I asked you a question.
Explain for the new
Okay.
members that were not here and the members that did not have a
She
copy
just
of
did.
the bill.
Explains to me what the bill says. We're talking about one bill now.
Okay,
We're
which one?
talking about O'Reilly's bill,
Okay,
and
now,
I'm asking
everybody have a copy of O'Reilly bill?
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Roland, you have one?
Can I, Madam Chair?
I'm going to discussion first, because we discussed everybody.
Can by show of hands, who are in favor, anyone in favor of O'Reilly's bill? By show of hands. So is it all right for me to say and represent? Yes.
Those who agree.
Anybody against O'Reilly's bill? All right, so it's no support. In regards to Senator Reagan, Ross,
Oh,
billing. That's why let me go backward. In regards to Senator Graham's bill, which would suggest that the gubernatorial, whoever is successful in a gubernatorial primary, then picks their own lieutenant governor candidate after the fact. Anybody?
Wait.
You don't want to stop that first?
Briefly. My concern with respect to that legislation is the revised Organic Act section 11, which says that the governor, and I spoke to Senator Graham about this, that the governor and the lieutenant governor have to run together. I asked him after the meeting, because I didn't draft the legislation, I don't touch election issues because it would be a conflict. But I asked him, ask of your drafter how it is this does not violate the Organic Act, that section of the Organic Act. He feels it does not because, or he was told it does not because he thinks that only applies to the general election. I don't read it that way. That's my concern with that bill. My other concern with it is that given that I have problems with Senator Miller's bill, which we'll discuss in a minute, if I am a no-party candidate, I decide, wait a second, I'm not talking about Miller's bill, let me finish.
Okay.
If I am running, we're still talking about Grantsville for governor, I'm not in a primary because I am a no-party candidate, then I am picking I have to register at the same time those people for election. I have to get all my paperwork in the same time the people who are running in a primary do. So I have to declare my lieutenant governor at that time. So you're going to have equal protection challenges to that bill, I believe.
Okay. Anybody? You want to say process? Is there anyone in here supporting Senator Graham's bill?
Not as written.
Everybody opposed to Senator Graham's bill? Right. Okay, two. The third bill?
Senator Miller's bill, I've already characterized, so I think.
Senator Miller's bill is for a universal primary. Anybody, any questions on that? Okay. Anybody supporting Senator Miller's bill? One. Anybody opposed? One abstention, one in support.
No, two in support.
Two in support, one abstention.
Who's abstaining? We're not, no, the majority is against.
But I think I need to report how it goes.
Yes.
Because it was unanimous.
We're talking about a consensus.
Majority not in support.
Yes, majority not in support.
And then Senator Giddens' bill, we discussed that.
Senator Giddens' bill.
Senator Giddens' bill, we just say.
Okay, so we are against.
It's two parts.
Okay. So it can be updated properly. We are against early voting.
No.
Hold on a minute. God, please. We are against the concept of early voting as it is crafted in the bill because it requires a specific application to so do. We are not against the concept of early voting. We like to have early voting that is approved the same way that we have elections and primary and general election day. Correct?
Yes.
Because that's a different scenario. Yes. Just as we would have walk-in absentee voting.
Yes.
We are against same-day registration in 2014 because of the peculiar and specific problems that we envision that would occur come next year.
Yes.
Correct?
In addition to the fact that we're rolling up,
that's why it's specific.
Okay.
Anybody opposed to that position?
I oppose to the same-day voting. I'm in favor of same-day voting because we can put a procedure in place
Same-day
from
voting?
now to next.
What is same-day voting?
I mean the same-day registration.
Okay, so your objection is duly noted. Anybody have that same position?
I think we're all.
One.
Well, now, listen to what
Only one person is it one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay, can we,
All right.
can please address it
Yes.
in part, and there's 2 parts, I don't know which
It's
is
2
A,
parts.
which is B. So, part, whatever you wanna call it, with respect to same-day registration, that's fine.
Same day registration, everybody for 2014, all opposed to same day registration in 2014. Okay, 8, 4, 1 again, correct? Okay. And the early voting, we are in favor of the concept, but not as it is drafted, crafted, prepared as it stands right now.
So, we'll say early voting with an amendment that we'll suggest.
Right, okay. Okay, I think
So,
that.
get a show of hands, so
Yeah.
you get it.
Everybody else, well, it got to be all asking the alternative. Everybody in support of that concept. Only voting with the amendment. Correct. All right. Hold up.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Chief.
So those are the items. Do we want to take on the item of the voter ID and registration, that we change it, they have to change the language, yes or no? But that's what I'm saying.
What is it?
Voter ID and registration fund.
No, we should.
Yes.
All in favor of changing the language in the voter ID and registration fund from the
Single signatory.
from the sole authority empowered to write check. I'm sorry. That the supervisor election shall be the sole authority empowered to write check to the authority of the election system. Right? Yeah. The law says right now the supervisor election shall be the sole authority empowered to write checks.
Election.
Supervisor, that's what it says. That's what it says. And the suggestion is to subject the language to the system, this election system.
I object to that. I thought it was, I thought you.
Well, anyway, I'm gonna, okay, I'll leave it alone till you all get it together.
No, I don't think it's something that we can't resolve.
Well-
If we can't, tell me. But
But we want to be specific as to what you want.
I thought you were saying that what we wanted was just to remove that it's the sole authority, and then we could come up with, we don't have to tell them who, I don't think you want the whole election system, because then you're talking about every and anybody.
No.
But I think you want to change it to 2 signatories,
So
possibly.
how do you draft it?
2 or 3 signatories, and you can tell them.
And who are those people gonna be?
We can tell them that.
We can discuss.
All right, okay, all right. I'll say, I guess that's number 9.
Two or three, 2 signatures.
So you would make it more concise as prescribed by the resolution of the bank, because the bank will require
That's true.
2 signatures.
Banking require anything, banking require
You tell
anything.
the bank with the signature.
You tell the bank you want,
Oh,
but you guys are ready.
2 or 7.
so how about these 2 or 3?
We recommend that, but the.
I'm not on that fire.
Any other business?
Any other business? Any other business?
Taking care of the issues of.
All right, I'm not.
We're taking care of the issues in the executive session, so we don't need that. Any announcements? Tentatively, our next meeting is scheduled for February 14th. We don't know where, and we don't know which island is yet. You'll be duly notified. And on that, on having a. Motion, Member Williams.
Motion to adjourn.
It's been moved to second. Any discussion?
the action or taking
Oh.
executive, that should be on your record.
Excuse me, please.
Go ahead. You need a vote? So,
Is there any more,
it's a John, what, John on the floor, not debatable.
It's not debatable. Whatever information, for the record, we did not have an executive session, am I correct?
no,
Right.
there's a
Or
leader.
is it when it was voted?
Yeah, but it was no executive session.
Pardon? But that's how she said it. It was a vote though, am I correct?
Who said it?
afternoon.
When you said something was, what did you say was resolved at executive session?
I said there's no, all these matters were resolved, there's no need for this.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right, having no further business, this meeting is now adjourned, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Supervisor Fox.
You gotta remember.
Okay.
It's they want us to agree.
Yeah.
Good morning. Again, that's a further discussion I'm having after, but I guess I've been very faithful. Again, it's a Sunday, and I the topic came up, it's a new day, but I know a lot of people on Sunday, whatever day it is, to get our whole body cleaned up, spiritual, physical, mental, etc. So today we have a 20-minute presentation by two of my guests, and then we have our next speaker, Ms. Charlie Springer. We'll be doing our last event for the day. So I'll start with the first portion as the lady comes back to the restaurant and introduce her. I'll start with Ms. Dimitri.
we should have a discussion outside, please.
Can you recognize me?
We should have a discussion outside. We should have a discussion
Bring on
outside.
Mr. Coleman now, and he will follow by this.
We should have a discussion outside.
Exhale for
Thank you.
minutes.
State plan. Right, because we're talking about it at the meeting with some of our deputies, yes, it's small towns. Yes, we have first state
Thank you.
Trying.
I'm a first grade teacher at Wellington Guardian Elementary School. And as teachers, we're always collecting things to show our kids. So last year, I found this big, beautiful caterpillar, and I put it in a jar, took it to school with the intention that my students will observe metamorphosis of a butterfly. The students watched excitedly day by day to see the butterfly emerge from the chrysalis. How disappointed we were when we came to school one morning and discovered that it had died in the process. I read, however, about a man who had a completely different experience as he observed the metamorphosis of a butterfly. He did not find a caterpillar as I did, he found a cocoon. One day, he realized that a small opening had appeared in the cocoon. He sat and he watched for several hours as the butterfly struggled to force its body through that tiny little hole. Then it seemed to stop making any progress. It appeared as if it had gotten as far as it could, and it could go no further. In order to help the butterfly, the kindly gentleman took out his pair of scissors and snipped off the remaining bit of the cocoon. The butterfly emerged easily, but it had a swollen body and shriveled wings. The man continued to watch the butterfly, expecting that at any moment the wings would enlarge and expand to be able to support the body, which would contract in time. Nothing happened. In fact, the butterfly spent the rest of his life crawling around with a swollen body and shriveled wings. It was never able to fly. What the man did not understand was that the struggle required for the butterfly to get to the tiny opening in the cocoon was nature's way of forcing fluid from the body of the butterfly into its wings so that it would be ready for flight once it was free from the cocoon. Struggles are not only essential for the growth and development of the moth or the butterfly, they are essential for the growth and maturity of human beings as well. For most of 2013, most of us, our lives, our professional and personal lives have been filled with many and grave challenges. And sometimes it seems as if we could go so far and no further. Many times we wish that someone, maybe some well-intentioned individual or group, would come to our aid and remove the problems so that we would not have to struggle so hard. But the truth is, struggles are exactly what we need in our lives. Hardships and difficulties are offspring of strengthening us so that we can soar. Disappointments, frustrations, the discouragements, irritations, and aggravations of the past 12 months as we press into the new year. In a few days, 2014 will be upon us. And during the new year, there will be more obstacles to surmount, longer bridges to cross, and higher mountains to climb. But with God, all things are possible. Sure. Whatever challenges, problems, difficulties you encounter next year, use them as stepping stones to reach your goal. I like this quote from Evangelist Jack Swindoll. He says, and I quote, "Every problem is an opportunity to prove God's power. Every day we encounter countless golden opportunities, brilliantly disguised
has insurmountable problems. However, if you remember nothing else that I've said here today, remember, every insurmountable problem that comes your way within the next few months is a golden opportunity for you to make a great impact, a significant contribution to our society. Take advantage of that opportunity. You will never have another one. Benjamin Franklin had a problem. He tried desperately to convince the citizens of Philadelphia to light the streets at night. He had some very sound reasons for proposing that to do so. Streetlights will not only deter crimes, but protect. Will not only deter crime, but it will also be more convenient to engage in activities. He pleaded with people, but his words fell on their ears. So he decided to take action. He would show his neighbors how important a single light would be. He went to the store, bought an attractive lantern, polished the glass, and placed it on a long bracket that extended from the front of his house. Each evening, just as the sun was setting, he lit the wick. His neighbors soon noticed the warm glow in front of his house. Pedestrians found that the light helped them from tripping over stones in the road. Soon others began to follow suit. They placed lanterns in front of their homes. Eventually, the city recognized the need for having bright lighted streets. It was just one hour. We would like to take some time on which you have holidays.